Have you ever looked back on an event in your life and wished it went differently? Well, we can't help you go back in time, but there are things you can do to ensure you don't experience the same missteps again. In the last video, we discussed continuous improvements. One way to ensure continuous improvements is to conduct a retrospective. So let's discuss that a little more in depth. A retrospective is a workshop or meeting that gives project teams time to reflect on a project. Retrospectives, sometimes known as retros, should happen throughout the life cycle of a project, but mostly are implemented after major milestones, or most commonly after a project is completed. Retrospectives give you a chance to discuss successes and setbacks that took place within the project or phases. You can think of them as a form of process improvement within your project. Retrospectives serve three main purposes. First, they encourage team building because they allow team members to understand differing perspectives within their team. Second, they facilitate improved collaboration on future projects. And third, they promote positive changes in future procedures and processes. Let's detail each one. Retrospectives are great for team building since they enable teams to understand each other better and facilitate better collaboration, which improves productivity. The emphasis in retrospective is on continuous improvement and change instead of recycling old and potentially bad habits, procedures, and processes. Retrospectives are helpful because even if we plan for every possible risk, odds are that something will sneak up on us. When something does fall through the cracks and you need to reflect on it with the team, you may want to conduct a retrospective. Some additional reasons that you might want to conduct a retrospective include missed deadlines or expectations, or miscommunications between stakeholders. You may also want to hold a retrospective at the end of a sprint. As a reminder, a sprint is a series of ordered tasks ending in a goal. You could also hold a retrospective after product launches and landings. These are all great opportunities to record key lessons that other people might learn from as they work on their own projects. Identifying the stumbling blocks and successes in a project helps improve future processes. But the way you decide to conduct a retrospective can vary. There's no exact formula or template for a productive retrospective. The way you choose to structure your retrospective will depend on your team and workplace. You may decide to conduct a formal, in-person retrospective if your team prefers to debrief in that setting. You can incorporate sticky notes, documents, or any other kind of physical tools to help your team debrief. Or, if you find that your team often gets off track during in-person meetings, you may decide a virtual or online retrospective is a better option. In this case, surveys might help to get thoughts organized. Although there's no one way to conduct retrospectives, there are certain best practices to keep in mind. As we previously mentioned, you'll want your retrospectives to be blameless. Making sure that everyone feels comfortable giving feedback as candidly as possible will result in the most productive retrospective. To navigate through awkward situations or sensitive subjects, it may be necessary to encourage anonymous or private feedback. A couple of tactics a project manager can use to ensure the process remains blameless are changing perspective and switching from you language to we language. Changing perspective means putting yourself in someone else's shoes. If your team is quick to blame the delivery company for their plants not arriving at the customer's office on time, think about the situation from the delivery company's perspective. Was the delivery company's route optimized and tested to avoid traffic? If not, maybe that should have been a task in your project. Using you language can get you in trouble because it can feel like everyone in the room is judging the person receiving the blame. For example, telling your project sponsor that you didn't make it clear that we didn't have money for a contingency budget when plants die is not as productive as saying the lack of a contingency budget wasn't made fully clear from the get-go, and that's something we can improve upon for next time. The project sponsor may feel attacked and wonder why you, the project manager, didn't ask the right questions in the early stages. Maybe the fact of the matter is that both of you could have done a little bit more to include a contingency budget, and that's okay. Make sure you aren't only focusing on the negative. Retrospectives are about reflecting on the positive aspects of projects too. So talk about what went well. What was fun? What new things will you be able to carry with you into future projects? Maybe the sales and marketing teams don't work together often, but this gave them an opportunity to bond. Maybe you enjoyed working with the Project Plan Pals contracted website designer so much that the team has decided to hire them full-time. Whatever the positives were, they're worth celebrating. You could even order some dinner or dessert as a thank you to everyone. Finally, you'll want to make sure that you enact the changes you've discussed. You'll put the discussed changes in place and decide to handle the project a little differently in the next phase. People don't want to participate in retrospectives if they feel their feedback isn't fully taken into consideration and implemented. Now that you have a general overview for retrospectives, we'll build upon this foundation in the next video, where we'll demonstrate how to conduct your own retrospective. Meet you there.